At 1151 p.m., my parents decided to kick me out of the family via a group text. Mom wrote, "You're no longer part of this family. We've blocked your number." Seconds later, my sister hearted the message. So I opened my laptop instead. By 1203 a.m., their mortgage, tuition, and utility payments were canceled. 3 weeks later, I handed my mother the final eviction notice. I didn't cry. I didn't throw my phone against the wall. I didn't text back why or please don't. I just stared at the glowing screen. 1:15:2 p.m. My sister Kelsey had just driven a digital knife into my back by hearting the message that officially executed me from the family. My first thought wasn't sadness. It wasn't even anger. It was accounting. I turned from my phone and opened my laptop. The screen cast a cold blue light across my small apartment. 1:15:4 p.m. I navigated to the city's property tax portal. My parents' home, the home I wasn't allowed to be a part of anymore. The annual tax payment of $7,000 was scheduled to post tomorrow, paid from my savings account. It was the only thing keeping the house from foreclosure. I clicked Cancel Payment. The confirmation box popped up. Are you sure? I thought about my mother's words. You are no longer a part of this family. I clicked Confirm. 1:15:7 p.m. Next, I logged into the private university's tuition portal. My sister Kelsey's tuition, $1,500 a month. For 3 years I had paid it, believing I was investing in her future, helping her get the education I had to fight for. She was the one who hearted the message. I looked at the scheduled payment for the first of the month. I clicked Cancel Recurring Payment. A pop-up asked for a reason. I typed Funding has been discontinued. 1:2:03 a.m. The final step. I logged into my utility account. The electric bill for my parents' house, the water bill, the high-speed internet, all of it was under my name, a relic from 5 years ago, when their credit was so bad the companies required a cosigner. I had become the primary account holder. I went down the line. Click, Cancel Service. Click, Cancel Service. Click, Cancel Service. Then I went to the premium streaming bundle, the one they all used, the one with every channel, every movie package, the one I paid for so they could be entertained while ignoring my calls. Click Cancel Subscription. The entire process had taken 12 minutes. 12 minutes to dismantle the financial scaffolding I had spent 5 years building around them. I closed the laptop. The apartment was dark again, silent except for the hum of my old refrigerator. I hadn't shed a single tear. This wasn't an emotional breakdown. It was just balancing the books. You have to understand, this wasn't cruelty. It was just accounting. For the past 5 years, ever since my mother's boutique, Derek and Steph Designs, quietly went bankrupt, I had been the silent investor in the performance piece they called their life. They kept the designer clothes, the country club membership, and the illusion of success. In return, I kept them from foreclosure. My role in the family wasn't daughter. It was financial backstop. I knew they didn't love me the way I wanted, but I believed I was essential. I had convinced myself that my utility was a form of love. Let me break down the ledger. Item 1. My sister Kelsey's education. $18,000 a year for 3 straight years paid directly to her private university. That's $54,000. Item 2. The family home. The one they were sitting in when they texted me I wasn't welcome. The property taxes hadn't been paid for 2 years after the business failed. It was 3 weeks from a tax auction when I stepped in. That was $7,000 a year for 3 years. $21,000. All this while, I lived in a tiny apartment, skipping vacations and telling myself that my frugal lifestyle was a choice, when in reality, I was funding theirs. I used to wonder how they could live like that, balancing on a knife edge of debt while projecting such effortless wealth. Now I understand. My family suffers from what I call the illusion of power from an empty wallet. There's a profound difference between having and being. People who focus on being build their identity on their character, their integrity, their skills. When they lose their money, they're still who they are. But my parents, their entire identity was based on having the right car, having the right address, having the reputation of success. It was their sense of self wasn't built. It was rented. When the money was gone, they didn't just face poverty. They faced non-existence. They couldn't be anything if they didn't have everything. The $75,000 I'd paid wasn't help. It was fuel. It was the monthly lease payment on their identity. And last night, they didn't just cut me their daughter out of the family. They cut off their own life support. They just didn't realize it yet. The sun came up. I hadn't slept, but I wasn't tired. I felt a strange, cold clarity. The silence in my apartment was absolute. At 7:03 a.m., my phone lit up. It was a text from Kelsey. "Okay, I get it, you're mad, but you're overreacting. You need to turn my tuition payment back on. Finals are in 2 weeks, and I'll be kicked out if it doesn't post." I read the message twice. There was no, "Are you okay?" No. "Why did Mom send that?" No. "What's going on?" Just turn my tuition back on. The entitlement was so pure, it was almost impressive. She hadn't just hearted my execution, she was now demanding I continue to pay for the privilege of being disowned. I didn't reply. At 7:15 a.m., the phone rang. "Mom." I watched it buzz. Once, twice, 3 times. I let it go to voicemail. A minute later, the notification popped up. I played the message, the sound tinny in the quiet room. "Sophia, we need to talk about what you've done. Your sister just called me in a panic. The power is off. The internet is off. What did you do? You've created an absolute mess. You need to call us immediately. This is not a request." Her voice wasn't apologetic. It wasn't sad. It was furious. The same tone she used when I'd accidentally spilled wine on her white carpet. I was an inconvenience, a mess she had to clean up. They weren't sorry for what they did. They were just shocked that the ATM was suddenly offline. They weren't heartbroken about losing a daughter. They were furious about losing their leverage. I was still processing the voicemail when a notification from Facebook appeared. My mother had just posted. I clicked it. It was a public post set to friends and family. It's so sad when some people forget who raised them. We gave you everything, and you throw it all away over a simple disagreement, praying they find their way back from all this anger. I stared at the words, praying they find their way. She wasn't just gaslighting me. She was playing the victim to our entire social circle. She was already building her narrative. I wasn't the discarded daughter. I was the ungrateful one. And that's when I knew this wasn't just a simple separation anymore. They had drawn the battle lines. They believed they were untouchable. They believed I would eventually crawl back, begging for forgiveness and turn the money back on. They had no idea what I was capable of. They had forgotten what I do for a living. I'm a financial analyst. I don't just look at numbers. I find them. I trace them. And I understand exactly what they mean. This wasn't about family drama anymore. This was about the money. It was time to find out just how deep their deception went. I looked at my mother's Facebook post for a long time, praying they find their way back from all this anger. She was painting me as the aggressor, the unstable, angry daughter who had lashed out and destroyed a loving family over a simple disagreement. She was building a public defense before I had even made an accusation. It was smart, it was manipulative, and it clarified everything. This was no longer a family dispute. It was a financial separation. I didn't text my mother back. I didn't comment on her post. I picked up my phone and called my old college roommate, Julia. Julia and I had survived 4 years of exams and bad cafeteria food together, but our paths had diverged. I went into finance, and she went to law school. She was now one of the most ruthless and successful family law attorneys in the state. "Sophia," she answered, her voice warm, "it's been too long. Don't tell me you're finally getting married so I can wear that ugly bridesmaid dress we talked about." "Not exactly," I said. "I actually need a lawyer, and I need you to be as ruthless as possible." The warmth in her voice vanished, replaced by the sharp, focused tone I'd heard her use in mock trials. "Talk to me." I laid out the facts clinically and calmly. The 5 years of payments, the $75,000, the 1:151 p.m. text message, the canceled payments, the morning's backlash, the Facebook post. She was silent for a full 30 seconds after I finished. "So Julia said, let me get this straight. You've been their silent investor for 5 years. They cut you off thinking you're just their emotional punching bag, and they have no idea that you are also their financial life support." "That's about the size of it," I said. I could almost hear her smiling. "Oh, Sophia, this isn't just a demand letter. This is a work of art." "What do you mean?" "They've committed fraud by default," Julia explained, "by accepting your payments under the false pretense of a family relationship, while actively dissolving that relationship. We're not just asking for the money back. We're demanding it. I'll draft a formal notice. 30 days to establish a repayment plan for the $75,000, or we file a civil suit for the full amount plus interest." "Do it," I said. "Give me 2 hours," she said. "I'm going to pull the property records for the house and the incorporation papers for your mom's failed boutique, just to make sure I don't miss any assets they might have hidden. I'll call you back when it's ready to send." I hung up and felt for the first time a sliver of power. Julia called back in 45 minutes. Her voice was completely different. The excited, predatory tone was gone. She sounded cold. "Sophia, this is worse than we thought." My stomach tightened. "What do you mean?" "I was doing my due diligence," she said, speaking slowly. "I looked at all associated family accounts, including that joint inheritance fund your grandmother left for you and Kelsey, just to see the full picture." "Okay. There was a withdrawal last year, Sophia. A big one. $40,000. "What?" "That's impossible," I said. "We both have to sign for any withdrawal over 5,000. I never signed anything." "I know," Julia said. "The money was transferred on April 12th of last year. It was moved into a brand new savings account." "Whose account?" Julia paused, and I heard her take a deep breath. The account was titled the Kelsey College Fund. I couldn't speak. $40,000. The signature. "That's the problem," Sophia Julia said, her voice grim. "I'm looking at the scanned withdrawal form from the bank right now. You did sign it, or at least someone with your name did. But Sophia, I've seen you sign 1,000 bar tabs. That is not your signature. It's not even a good forgery. The laptop in front of me blurred. It wasn't just that they took my money. It wasn't just that they used me. They had stolen from me. This wasn't just ingratitude. This wasn't just manipulation. This was a crime. The official demand letter, which now included the forgery accusation and the demand for repayment of the stolen $40,000, was delivered by a process server. And then I waited. The 30-day notice period ticked by. I didn't hear from them. Not a call, not an email, not a single text. Julia kept me updated. The foreclosure on the house was proceeding. The university had frozen Kelsey's registration for non-payment. The power company wasn't budging. Their entire fabricated world was collapsing, and they were still too proud or too arrogant to speak to me. Until they weren't. It was a Saturday. I was at my kitchen table reviewing a financial portfolio when the knock came. Not a normal knock, but a frantic, desperate pounding. I looked through the peephole. It was my mother, Susan. She looked wrecked. Her usually perfect hair was a mess. Her eyes were red and swollen, and her designer clothes were wrinkled. The mask of the successful boutique owner was gone. I opened the door, leaving the chain on. Sophia, she sobbed. Her hands pressed against the wood. Sophia, please, you have to stop this. I just looked at her. The house, she gasped, the bank. They're really going to take the house. The auction is in 3 days. We're losing everything. She waited, expecting me to fix it, expecting me to say, okay, I'll pay it. I said nothing. Her desperation turned frantic. Please, Sophia, if not for me, do it for your sister. Think about Kelsey. This will ruin her. She'll have to drop out. She has nothing. You have to do something. Do something for my sister. Even now, even at the absolute end, it wasn't about me. It wasn't about the theft or the betrayal or the years of being used. It was about Kelsey. I finally understood. I wasn't their daughter. I was just a resource for their real child. You're right, I said. My voice was calm, steady. I should do something. I saw a flash of relief in her eyes, the sickening belief that her manipulation had worked one last time. I unhooked the chain and opened the door just enough to step back. I walked to my desk, picked up a single piece of paper from a neat stack, and walked back. I held it out to her. She took it in her hands, shaking her eyes, scanning the page. It was a copy of the final eviction notice from the bank, confirming the auction date and time. I already did, I said. This should help you remember the date so you can be packed. Goodbye, Mom. I closed the door in her face, turned the deadbolt, and walked away. Standing in the silence of my own apartment, I didn't feel triumph. I didn't feel joy. I felt quiet. I realized that we're all taught that cutting off family, especially your parents, is the worst thing a person can do. We're told that blood is thicker than water, but sometimes blood is just blood. It's not a free pass. It's not a blank check for abuse. Sometimes the most toxic relationships are the ones we're born into. Sometimes the bravest act of self-love isn't about forgiveness. It's about acknowledging that a relationship is a locked door, and you're the only one still trying to turn the knob. Walking away isn't an act of cruelty. It's an act of survival. You're not burning a bridge. You're simply stopping yourself from drowning while trying to hold up a bridge that collapsed on top of you years ago. The house sold at auction. As Julia predicted, the threat of criminal charges for forgery was enough. To avoid prosecution, my mother and Kelsey agreed to sign over the $40,000 from the inheritance fund, what was left of it, back to me. The legal battles were over. The angry voicemails had stopped. The foreclosure was complete. That night, I sat at my laptop. I opened that old, meticulous spreadsheet, the one titled Family Investments. I looked at the lines Kelsey tuition, property tax, utility support. I looked at the grand total at the bottom, $75,000. This wasn't a ledger of my generosity. It was a record of my denial. It was the price I had paid to pretend I had a family that loved me. I stared at the numbers. All the vacations, I never took the apartment. I never upgraded the investments in myself. I never made. Then I highlighted the entire sheet. I pressed delete. That night, for the first time in years, I slept through till morning. No guilt, no anxiety, no noise, just silence. This story, in the end, isn't just about me. It's about you. It's for anyone who has ever felt like they were on the outside of their own family looking in. For anyone who has been the responsible one, the reliable one, the backup plan, while someone else was the celebrated one. If you've ever found yourself paying for a love that should have been free, or shrinking yourself down to make others feel comfortable, this is for you. You are not invisible. You are not just a resource. Your worth is not determined by how useful you are to people who refuse to see you. You are allowed to walk away from a table where respect is no longer being served. You are allowed to build your own. Thank you for listening to my story. If this resonated with you, let me know in the comments. I read them all. And maybe share this with someone who needs to hear that they're not alone. Until next time, take care of yourselves.